Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 11th day of April. Here, got a major trade here in the NFL. Somewhat of a big trade here. It's not nothing major. It's not Aaron Rodgers big, but I'm going to talk about that Jeff Okudah, number 3 overall pick, going from Detroit to Atlanta. Also, I'll give you my play-in game predictions, and I'll talk about first-round predictions. Also, want to make this announcement. Jeffrey Deskovic will be on tomorrow. We'll talk about the first round pick, and maybe I'll ask him about the Luka Doncic situation in Dallas. Okay, and the YouTube has put out their pricing for the NFL ticket. Go over that and more on Sports Scope. I'll take my first and only break here. We'll get it out of the way, hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. I'll be back in 49 seconds. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty then, I'm back here live on all links, and for the record here, I've got so many notes, it's hard to keep up with everything. Tonight, obviously, with Rudy Gobert out and the injuries there on Minnesota, I mean, obviously, I'm going to take the Lakers to win this game. They will get this. They will get this 7th seed, and they'll play Memphis. They're going to play at Memphis sometime later on this week, either Saturday or Sunday. My guess is they'll probably play Saturday. Heat Hawk. Obviously, I like the Heat at home. Now, the Hawks, very talented team. Trae Young being rumored to be traded. The talent there with the Hawks. Remember, they hired Quinn Snyder and fired Nate McMillan in the middle of the season here, but they are in the playoff game. So, yeah, Heat tonight. And, of course, the Lakers, although I sure would like to see Minnesota beat them, Love to see, Anthony Edwards or somebody just get red hot and beat the Lakers. But that is wishful thinking there, Corey. Wishful thinking with Rudy Gobert out because of the hit he made, punching a teammate. If you want to call it a punch, like Charles Barkley, I mean, do you really want to push somebody and then back up? It doesn't really look good. Kind of got a bad route there. But anyways, I'll go into those picks here in just a few minutes. I'll talk about the rest of the first round, how many games going to go where and whatnot in the NBA playoffs. It's going to be a really good playoff this year, Corey. I do think the play on the court is going to be really good. I think teams like Denver, Denver's got another gear we haven't seen. I think we're going to see that gear come playoff time this week. I do think that. Philadelphia's got a good draw. I was looking at, I can't believe Brooklyn still made it. Think about this for a second. Brooklyn trades Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. And Kyrie it was such a good move to trade in Kyrie Irving that the basketball gods give the Brooklyn Nets a 6th seed. So go figure, right? And Kyrie's not even in the playoffs with the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, now, the reason why this is such a big trade, I'm going to go to football. I'll come back to basketball, and then I'll talk about this YouTube. YouTube, you can get the the YouTube, you can get the games on YouTube. It's like the NFL Sunday Ticket. I would have loved it back in our day to have something like this on YouTube. I'll talk about that here in a little bit, being able to watch every live game on YouTube. But it's a little steep, a little bit, like Robert De Niro said in Goodfellas. You know, he was trying to keep Tommy from getting into it with the maid guy. And, you know, Tommy, kind of a hothead character from Goodfellas, played by Joe Pesci. This maid guy gets out of prison, and he still remembers Tommy as a kid, and he's talking about the shine box and everything else. And kind of embarrassed this guy, kind of embarrassed the Joe Pesci character in front of his friends. Said he was kidding around. They said, okay, no problem. He said, now get your shine box. And then Pesci character goes off. I just watched it again, and the mob guy looks at Robert De Niro's character, is also a mob guy, and he says, now you insulted him a little bit. Good movie. Fast forward through the rough scenes, but good movie. Okay, so the Lions trade the 2020 number 3 overall pick. Yeah, this guy only completed 3 seasons, folks. With the Detroit Lions, cornerback Jeff Okudah from Ohio State. Now, Okudah was originally drafted by Bob Quinn. Bob Quinn, the general manager, Matt Patricia. Now, both of them have been fired. Both of them have been fired from the Lions since this new staff. They decided to move on from Okudah. For one thing, to save about $5 million. When you're drafted that high, your salary, you're kind of penciled in. Your salary's going up, and up. Okudah, I want to say, how many starts he get? 22 starts in 3 seasons. Really inconsistent last year. Had a really good opening. I want to say first couple of weeks there. It's either week 1 or week 2. He plays against Justin Jefferson of Minnesota, who's outstanding wide receiver last year. Probably had the best. He did have the best numbers in the game. Held him to a bare minimum, like 3 catches, 20 yards, something like that. Then the guy plays him again in Detroit on the road, the Minnesota player, the wide receiver, and he has a banner day, almost 200 yards. And that was the story of Jeff Okudah's career. When Okudah was at the combine, I remember this one guy from a small sports network called Scarecrow or something, real cheesy name. And he starts asking Okudah a bunch of questions about your sloppy play and everything, and getting your penalties and everything. And then nothing showed up on tape, and the guy gets fired. Looks like he was trying to grandstand, but now you look back and think maybe this guy did know something on Okudah. Either way, he was traded to Atlanta for a 5th round pick. Think about that, Corey. Number 3 pick overall. So yeah, I would consider him a bust at this point. Would I say a complete bust? I mean, he was a major disappointment. Let's see how he fits in the Atlanta Falcons system, excuse me. I was just thinking about the Hawks that they're playing tonight in this playoff game. In the Atlanta Falcons system, so nobody really knows how this is going to play out. Now, Detroit, by the way, on Thursday, folks, tomorrow, Jeffrey Deskovic, big NBA guy. We're going to talk about the first round of the playoffs, get his takes on the playoffs in general, and we'll go through that for most of the show from like 15th after the hour, probably to the end of the show. Depends on how far we get into things. But on Thursday, I'll give you my mock draft of the first 11 of who I think they should. Difference from my other mock draft is who I think they will, judging by the personalities of those teams. On Thursday, I'm going to give the first 11 because I'm going to 11 instead of 10 because of Tennessee here. I've got so much audience here, and I'm based out of Nashville. I need to give that 11th pick, which is the Titans have. So I'll give you that Thursday. Got plenty of space to cover that. So, anyways, as far as Detroit, now remember Detroit's got 2 firsts and 2 seconds. They got this in the trade a few years ago from the Matt Stafford traded from Detroit to the LA Rams. The Rams had a terrible season. Remember, they've got the 6th pick, and they had their own pick, which was the 18th pick now, but they traded away Okudah. So at 6, I had Detroit taking a chance on the troubled red flag player, Jalen Carter, man on the field. He's all that. Very much like an Aaron Donald type of defensive tackle, kind of like a Warren Sapp, who also had red flags coming out of Miami back in 95. Turned out to be a Hall of Famer there. I think they probably, even at 6, take a chance on Jalen Carter. Some thought could be a number 1 overall type of prospect at one time because of his ability to dominate the middle of the field as a defensive tackle. Just a little backtrack on him. Remember, he was the guy who got into the car accident, the speeding accident, just after the national championship. He was involved in a race that caused a teammate to die. And he left the scene of an accident and kind of played it off dumb. And, the tape, they rewound it. So he got a reckless driving ticket. He also had some red flags for air quote being immature. He also showed up out of shape at his own pro day. He's got red flags all over the place, man. They're starting to pile up here. But, he can rush the passer. He's not a quarterback. If he's a quarterback, he's totally off most boards. But him being a defensive tackle, I think a guy like a Dan Campbell, Dan Campbell, will take a chance with him at Detroit there with that 6th pick. Now, that 18th pick, I did originally have the Lions taking Will Levis. Now I think if the cornerback is there, they'll take a cornerback. Now, there's a possibility at 6, depending on what this team's thinking, there's a possibility at 6 they could take Devin Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. If one of these, depending on their rating systems, I would rather get the guy that you could line over the ball first, because good pass rushers make cornerbacks look good. We've always known that. The old adage is, and maybe they go corner at 18. But now I'm thinking they probably don't take Levis at 18. In other words, they're going to get a cornerback out of one of these 2 picks, pending on their grading system and who drafts where. On the flip side, Atlanta. Now, remember, Atlanta had about $55-60 million, depending on what site you looked at, in cap space. And they went out and spent quite a bit of money, mainly on defense. They did pick up Taylor Heinicke from free agent, former Washington Commanders quarterback there. But, man, they have made a lot of upgrades on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm going to see if I can name this here. Okay, here. The Falcons offseason so far, this is from Pro Football Focus. Jesse Bates was the best available safety. He was out of Cincinnati. Very highly regarded safety. The Falcons signed him. Now, Calais Campbell, very long in the tooth, 34, 35-year-old defensive tackle. He was cut from Baltimore. Baltimore was going to try to bring him back for a much cheaper price. Atlanta jumps on, signs him, takes a chance with a guy that age. Either way, they brought him in. They brought in Mike Hughes at cornerback here. Brought in Eddie Goldman, activated Eddie Goldman, defensive tackle. And, of course, they brought in Jeff Okudah. Now, offensively, they did bring in Jonnu Smith, former Tennessee Titan here. Jonnu Smith, former Tennessee Titan. Now, that was addition by subtraction. As far as the Patriots getting rid of Jonnu Smith, the Titans, I was okay with the Tennessee Titans letting Jonnu Smith go. Very inconsistent with Tennessee. And the Patriots paid him a bag of money, And, man, he did nothing there, Carlos. Of course, they re-signed their right tackle, Caleb McGarry. Had a pretty good offseason. And Calais Campbell saying this team's going to do something. So could Atlanta, with these players, with the players that they built upon, a Kyle Pitts, Drake London at wide receiver, this guy's name is like Al Jazeera or whatever, that running back there, better than average offensive line, Jake Matthews, a well above average left tackle there. Yes, they could do something. In a weak NFC South, I still think probably New Orleans with Derek Carr wins it because I'm just not in love with the quarterback Atlanta does. Now, remember, they've got a top 10 pick as well. They could do something. They may get a wild card. They may win that division. They're probably going to do something this year. They're not going to be drafted from 5 to 10. I can tell you that right now. Okay? So as far as Detroit's just a flood of talent. And if I'm Detroit, not to sound like a broken record, and I told Freddie the Pizza Man who's out of Detroit, man, just go all defense. Go all defense. I mean, you've got the offensive line there. You've got a quarterback who can make the right amount of plays. You got skilled players for days. 2 really good receivers, 2 high-end guys. Remember, Jameis Williams came back from Atlanta there. From Alabama, that guy that they drafted last year from a injury, and he played pretty well down the stretch, considering the injury he was coming from as a rookie. And, of course, Amon St. Brown at wide receiver. You traded away your second-round pick to your tight end and got a second-round pick. This Brock guy they like at tight end also. You got 2 decent running backs here. Just go all defense. I mean, you can run on them. You could throw on them last year. They do have one really good piece. That's one player, and that's Aiden Hutchinson, the former number 2 overall pick, who's killing it. Just go defensive line and cornerback the rest of the way. They've also signed a safety there, Chauncey Gardner. So I, as of right now, I've got them winning the NFC North, and I don't think that is a hot take, folks. Yes, Detroit basketball, Detroit football is going to win the North as of right now. Things could change, folks. Things could change. What if Rodgers stays, man? I mean, maybe Green Bay gets it back together. I doubt it. He's going to get traded at some point. We've got 2 weeks to go before the NFL draft on Thursday. Something's going to get done with that Rodgers thing, and I think something will probably get done with Lamar Jackson, the way things have changed with the Odell Beckham thing. And speaking of Will Levis, going back to the quarterback there out of Kentucky, I mentioned this the other day. I was on the Mac and Jack and Jim Jeffcoat show on Sunday. And by the way, Friday I'll be from 6 p.m. Eastern to 6:30. I'll be on John Restino's show, Spitballing Sports, talking about the NFL and the NBA playoffs Friday. And, of course, Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez will be on Sports Scope with me Friday, and we'll be talking about the playoffs. Yes, Jim Moore, the playoffs in the NBA, of course, not the NFL. Okay, now, so Mac and Jack and Jim, and Mac sent me these questions over the weekend, folks, and he asked me, he says, do you think these quarterbacks, which one, the 4 that's being talked about in the NFL draft coming up in 2 weeks from Thursday, which one do you think can possibly be a bust or, air quote, underwhelming? And listen, folks, they all can, okay? All 4 of them can. Think about it this way. C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young is pretty much even now with C.J. Stroud from Ohio State to be the number 1 overall pick, right? But think about it this way. Is this the guy who played in the playoff game against Georgia where he had a banner day? They had Georgia beat for most of that game, and Georgia comes back and beats them at the very end. Or is this the guy who played in the second half of those 2 Michigan games the last 2 years. Okay. Is this a guy that's had some all world wide receivers? Marvin Harrison Jr. played, and yes, that's Marvin Harrison's son, Corey, from the Indianapolis Colts. Some would say he would be by far the best wide receiver in this draft and possibly a top 5 pick. That's how talented he is. Okay. And so yeah, Stroud could be, and another Ohio State quarterback. I mean, how many have been busting before because Ohio State talent is so much better than the Big Ten? Now, Michigan has closed that gap a little bit there, but not the rest of the conference for the most part. So yeah, Stroud could be another bust, an underwhelming player by all means. You know, he could definitely be an underwhelming player or just a flat out bust. You know. I mean, Dwayne Haskins, God rest his soul, he looked great at times at Ohio State. And we saw that he could not handle the NFL at all. He's very immature. Washington moved on from him. Washington moved on from him, and he couldn't break the starting lineup in Pittsburgh. Okay, now, and so you asked me, you say, well, what about Bryce Young? Yes, the best pure passer, pocket awareness, quick on his feet, a gamer by all means. But he's 5'11", 192. Okay, the last few quarterbacks drafted that were small like that were Tua and Kyler Murray. Tua is some are already saying because of his concussions that he should retire now. Okay, Kyler Murray's coming back from a major surgery again. He might not even start the season. He's starting to show his fatigue. He's starting to show that he's a little bit more brittle than we thought he was. He did win Rookie of the Year. Very talented player, but he's getting banged up. And also he's getting a knock on him for not studying enough, okay? Doing enough film study. So I could see Bryce Young looking great early, but having a long time to recover from injuries and missing 3, 4, 5 games out of pop. You cannot win in this league if you're missing that many games as a quarterback. The backup is just not that good, folks. So that's a knock on Young. Will Levis, as I mentioned to the other guys, with the quarterback from Kentucky, Carlos, okay, some comparing to Josh Allen, could be an all-world. I watched his pro day. I watched a clip today from his pro day. Man, he threw a 65-yard, just a beamer. But he also has the knock on him. He seems to be a little mature with all his showing off of his muscles and stuff. Very 14-year-old type of maturity type of thing, showing off your muscles and stuff. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's not really the personality of a good quarterback. Plus, other on the field comparisons are like Carson Wentz. Now Carson Wentz, not Carson Wentz when he first got drafted. Josh Allen, $300 million quarterback versus Carson Wentz, a guy who's been cut from 2 teams in the last 2 years. So he could be a major bust. And, of course, Anthony Richardson, 13 starts. This is a quarterback out of Florida. Yeah, very strong arm, very fit. Says his heroes are guys like Cam Newton. I'm like, Cam Newton didn't win a Super Bowl, and neither did Michael Vick. I don't know if I would want to put those guys as my guys I want to, model my game after. How about a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady, people that's got hardware in this league? He's also being compared to Josh Allen, but with that lack of experience and not even a winning record at Florida, under 50-something% completion percentage with Florida talent, this guy could be a Jamarcus Russell type of bust here. So, I mean, those are 4 quarterbacks. They could all 4 be bad and underwhelming. You just do not know. I would not reach if I'm Carlos says all them dudes, So that is my take there on that stuff. Okay. Staying in the NFL. Now, YouTube has already come out with their pricing. And I'm telling you, so YouTube has bought the rights to the Sunday ticket. And I'll say this. When people are, I just cut off my premium cable stations the other day. One part because I'm doing this program 5 days a week. I'm not working the day job 14 hours a day, making really good money, but exhausted myself, so I had to save some money and I had to cut some cable stations down. I've had to cut the YMCA membership off and just work out on my own, do the outdoor work, just to name a few things. Now, this Sunday ticket where you can watch any game on YouTube, okay? My problem with this is YouTube subscribers, and I don't even know what this means, but YouTube TV subscribers, Carlos, is it's $349 if you're a TV subscriber. All right. But it's $249 if you're a YouTube TV subscriber for the season before June 6th. Now, you can get the Red Zone on YouTube for $389, $289 if you bundle it. Check this out, folks. Non-YouTube TV subscribers, people like me, it would be $449. Okay, $349 if you do it early. That's steep, guys. That's steep. Okay, because I want to say, for the record, the old Sunday ticket, the YouTube, the DirecTV thing was $289 for a year. $289 for the year. When people are pinching pennies right now because of this inflation, I would make it right around that $289 DirecTV. That's just, I would make it around. Think about it this way. If you're a cable subscriber, and I'm just going to guess here, it used to be 10, maybe it's 15 now. If you are a cable subscriber, like I am, I have Xfinity out here in Nashville, you can pay, it used to be 10, maybe it's 15, $15 a month and get Red Zone. Red Zone goes to any game that's in the Red Zone. And sometimes when no games are in the Red Zone, they will go to other games. They'll go to it like that. $15 a month. Well, you think about that. $15 a month for September, October, November, December, and then the last week, January, that's not even $100 for the Red Zone. Now, this is watching the whole game all the way through. So I do think I like the idea. And Corey, I've worked security with you. I like the idea of opening up my phone, especially if I'm a big fantasy player and if I'm wagering the games, which I do pretty much both now. Not as much, but not as much money. I do it all the time, but also not as much as I used to. That would be amazing. If you're doing security and you're working at a guard shack, out in the middle of nowhere in a parking lot, and you're checking in cars to the airport, I would love to just have the game on YouTube and watch the game live as it's going on. So $449, folks, that is very expensive. Okay. And quite frankly, I was just reading that Amazon got greedy. Amazon really got greedy, and they put this thing out here. And like I said, with the economy the way it is, taking a turn for the worse, the viewership for Thursday night football was down 25%. The Thursday night games averaged 9.6 million. More people watched that women's national championship game than a Thursday night NFL game, and that's the average. And some of those Thursday night games were good. Remember the Kansas City one Now I'm an Amazon Prime member. I had the 16 whatever dollars a month. I've paid it for a long time. And they're also running commercials with it. You know, my thing is probably should have gave it to people for free the first year. Try to get them hooked, then do it. Ease in here. Or if you just want to do Amazon Thursday night football, maybe cut it in half. If you just want to have the football and people can just stream the game, I think Amazon is smart enough to do that. And some of them, and Carlos says those games were rough to watch. Some of them were terrible. Remember, Al Michaels says he was bored at some of these games. The whole idea for Thursday night football, I think, is bad anyways. I haven't really liked it. I think the players are too sluggish. I do like the Thanksgiving games. I think they're fine. But if they just did away with all Thursday football, even on Thanksgiving, I would be okay with it. I would be okay with it. Having the players play those short weeks, 4 days, really 3 full days off, and then you got to go up there and pop pads again. And then they want to talk about second straight Thursday night snoozer hits new season low. This was one of the headlines when I was researching for the program. 8.79 million. One of the games. That is very low for the NFL. Thank you, Talking Ball. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Share the show. Please do. I got to get this thing up. I've been putting in a lot of work here. So YouTube, don't be greedy. Like the great DMX song says, don't be greedy. Give to the needy, man. Yeah, I was doing NFL app on phone for like $10 to $12 a month. That's about what I pay for Red Zone's the best thing since wrestling, like Eminem said, and in one of his songs. Red Zone is quick. They go to the games, and they just don't show games that are right in the red zone. If you watch Red Zone, which I've been watching for about 8 or 9 years, I can't keep up how many years. I'm calling my dad back and forth for texting, touchdown. But it's never a dull moment. It's commercial free. You're right into the games. You're going to see a lot of the big plays in every game. Pretty much in Red Zone, not unless it's 2 or 3 at once. Sometimes they miss. You're going to see every score. Sometimes, and you're going to see, he calls it the witching hour. That is Scott Hansen, I think is the guy's name, the host Red Zone. And he's saying when wins become losses and losses becomes wins. Basically, one score games, they'll put more focus in on them. And a lot of crazy plays in the Red Zone. Can't wait. Wish the season started tomorrow. Just me talking about it, Chad, gets me fired up for football. Just me talking about it. So come on now, YouTube, you greedy mother effers. Let's drop that price here, especially the first year, and give us a little time to work it up, okay? I'm not going to do it, but hey, maybe I'm living somewhere else and I don't have all the cable and I'm messing around and I got YouTube on my phone watching football, okay? I don't have anything to eat, but I got the NFL and that will get me through. I kid. All righty then. Okay, one more football story. As you all know, when Cincinnati went up there and beat Buffalo in Buffalo, in the playoffs last year, with 3 new offensive linemen, and it's snowing outside, cold as all get out, and Joe Burrow throwing lasers out there. I had a take on that Monday morning. And I can't remember the guy's name, but Dan Orlowski had a similar take than me. And I just wanted to be clear about that take about Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. I simply think that Burrow does more with less. He done more with less. Well, listen to what Carson Palmer said about Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes caused a little bit of a stir the other day. Didn't get a chance to get to this. I hope I can pick this up. Listen up. Carson Palmer, former Cincinnati quarterback who has no love for Cincinnati. Remember, he wanted to get the bleep out of there. Cincinnati traded this guy because he said, I'll retire if you don't trade me. They traded him to the Raiders, and then the Raiders end up, I think, he releasing him or whatever, and he ends up signing with Arizona and goes to the NFC Championship game. I digress. Carson Palmer on Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes.
I think Joe's the best quarterback in the league, I know Patrick is phenomenal, but I just think Joe's more consistent. He's more consistent. He's more accountable to run the system and the play that's called, and not feel like, well, he didn't win last time and get open for me, so I'm going to do it with my feet. And then before you know it, you're soft for a 4-yard loss because you tried to make 2 or 3 guys miss. Joe is just talk about not having a weakness. Mentally strong, physically tough, accurate, can throw it far enough, fast enough, gets the ball out quick, and then he can actually do a lot with his legs. He just rarely shows it.
I don't think that's a hot take.
That was off of the Colin Cowherd show yesterday. Now, and I don't know where Palmer was. That's where I got that soundbite off of. And I'll say this. Everything he said, Carson Palmer did, is 110% accurate. Okay? Now, if you look here, now let me go back to this story here. Now, Carson Palmer on Patrick Mahomes. Burrow, look at what Burrow inherited. And I'm trying to get a friend of mine, this guy Justin from church. He's from Cincinnati, and talk about what Burrow's done for Cincinnati, the city and everything, the whole team. This guy was 6-25 his first 2 years. This guy meaning Zach Taylor. They didn't win a single game, or maybe they got one win. Remember, they got the first overall pick the first year to get Burrow. All right, this guy was a quarterback coach. All right, criticized by all your NFL, your Mark Schlereth, you name it, that hire, right? Zach Taylor. Joe Burrow set all kinds of records in college. Perfect one of the most perfect seasons ever at Ohio State. I think it's 60 touchdowns and like 5 interceptions. I mean, it's just unbelievable, And he goes to a guy nobody's never heard of, a quarterback coach for Sean McVay or somebody, right? With the Rams. And the second year, off of an ACL tear, he leads this team to a Super Bowl. Tom Brady didn't play that well off of an ACL tear. With Bill Belichick and the Patriots, they got to the playoffs and got put out in the first round. I want to say Baltimore beat them that year. His first year back off of that 2008 ACL tear. That's Tom effing Brady. This guy then the next year they end up going with more injuries on the offensive line. Remember that? And a few bad calls. They're in the AFC Championship game. All I'm saying is he makes throws that I do not think Mahomes can make. Those comeback routes and everything he said about staying in the pocket, keeping the play together, running the play that's supposed to be ran. Just look at it this way. Like I was saying yesterday on the people, I know some of you got a little ticked off about it, but because you believe those politics of a Greg Popovich, but turn the lens around and say, if Popovich was talking against your politics, you'd be ticked off. What if Patrick Mahomes went to Zach Taylor and this god-awful Cincinnati team and a guy who was like a 10th or 12th pick out of Texas Tech? They had a 500 record. The coach was fired. The coach was Cliff Kingsbury. He gets fired at Texas Tech versus a guy who goes undefeated and has one of the greatest seasons of all time at LSU. And Joe Burrow, right? Put Joe Burrow with one of the greatest, if not the greatest, quarterback mind in Andy Reid with Cincinnati. Heck, with Andy Reid and that team, they might have won the 2020 Super Bowl against Tampa without their two left. I mean, this guy can put the ball in a keyhole, man. You know, he's that good. Now, that being said, none of that did happen. Patrick Mahomes has got what did he get? 2 MVPs? He's got 2 MVPs. He's got 2 Super Bowl MVPs. I got him top 5 all time. But if you put, I think Burrow does more with less, and maybe he gets a ring, maybe he don't. But remember, the organization you go to has a big part of it. A dumpster fire, a team that didn't even have an indoor facility. Cheap owner. Ask TJ Houshmandzadeh. Mike Brown's one of the worst owners. But he saw Joe Burrow, and he immediately started doing things that they normally wouldn't do. He gave A.J. Green a few more years contract. He re-signed Joe Mixon. They instead of taking a left tackle, they go after Jamar Chase when they already had T. Higgins. And they had Tyler Boyd. He wanted to make bleeping sure that this guy, who seems to be a special talent, and it was true, had all the weapons that he can have in Joe Burrow. Now he's gotten protection. And he does have a good GM. Joe Cool. Joe Cool is good, but better than Mahomes? Not sure. Well, we'll never really know. We'll never really know. Mahomes, probably a stronger arm, probably a better athlete, but Montana never had the strongest arm, and Brady never did. They're considered number 1 and number 2 in most books, mine included. I know Elway had a stronger arm. He's a better athlete than both of them. But these guys were the better quarterback. It is a thinking man's. It's quick reaction. Quarterback is anticipation, making reads, audibling out of plays, it's the whole package. It's the whole package. Now, that being said, I don't want to take anything from Mahomes. He's one of my favorites to watch. He's first ballot Hall of Famer. Got him number 5 because of his resume, because of the lack of defense that Kansas City plays. I can't really fathom that. But overall position, I'll probably have Burrow over Mahomes. I'm saying that Burrow would probably have just as good, or if not better, resume and stats if he had Andy Reid in that offense. Because remember, nobody knows who Zach Taylor is. Zach Taylor will go back to being Zach Taylor if Burrow wouldn't play on that team. That's what the fans say. That's what a fan told me. You know? Just calling it like I see it, folks. Just calling it like I see it. Okay, again, let's go back to the round ball. Let's see. Defense like 3 players short, need to be younger on defense. Yeah, and that's what they're doing. NBA, again, Rudy Gobert out. I like the Lakers. No hot take in that. Lakers going to get the 7th seed. They've had the best record in the league post-trade deadline. As soon as they got rid of Russell Westbrook, all their problems went away. They dissipated, okay? So, and the Heat. I like the Heat at home today against Atlanta. There was a report that maybe Trae Young the Hawks, Trae Young may get traded. You know, I don't know who they would move him to. Would you take a chance if you're Dallas and go for Trae Young? I don't know. You have to get into the analytics and see. So I like those 2 teams to move on tonight. Now, let's move right along. You know, Atlanta would play Toronto. I've got Toronto moving on. I forgot who Toronto plays. But either way, I'll have them moving on in the East. And they will play Atlanta. They will play Atlanta for the 8th seed. Atlanta will beat Toronto. Okay? And Atlanta will get that 8th seed. And, of course, they'll want to have to play Milwaukee. they'll have to play Milwaukee in the first round. In the West, now this is going in. I'm talking with the playing games. The 9-10. You know what? Actually, I like OKC to get that win tomorrow, and they will play they'll play Minnesota, and Minnesota will have Rudy Gobert back, and Minnesota will get that 8 seed. They will get that 8 seed, and I like Denver. Not sure if it's a sweep, possibly in 6 games, because they got some talented players, you know. I mean, you look at the guy's name is Richardson or Anderson. Either way, Anthony, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Richardson, Edwards or whatever. I think it's Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards, Towns, Conley with the experience, Rudy Gobert. And mind you, remember, after this little skirmish where Gobert got sent home and then he gets suspended, Minnesota came back and beat New Orleans. They came back and beat New Orleans and helped them play for the 7th seed tonight. And hey, maybe Edwards gets hot tonight and they beat the Lakers. I certainly hope so, but I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. So either way, that will be a heck of a first round matchup if you think about it. Now, but Denver's going to move on. Denver will move on in that first round here, but not a sweep. Not a sweep. I'll go out on a limb and say 6 games there. And then, of course, the Lakers, they're going to win tonight, which means this weekend they're going to play Memphis. Now, Memphis doesn't have Steven Adams. And remember, Brandon Clark got hurt towards Achilles about a month ago. But Memphis, a pretty deep team. They will make it difficult. They will make it difficult for the Lakers, but the Lakers will probably win in 6. Not unless Anthony Davis gets hurt again, then I like Memphis. But if Davis stays healthy, they're 1-2 in the season, by the way. Lakers have the winning edge over Memphis. But that being said, hey, Memphis this is their 3rd year in the playoffs. Teams are getting better. Once you get in that 3rd year, 4th year, you're used to the playoff speed. You're used to your rotations. Memphis, same coach, same star. Ja Morant's in shape. Dylan Brooks, Jared Jackson, Bane. Just a lot of players for days in Memphis. You guys know that. They have a lot of depth, but I wish they had some size inside. No Steven. I doubt. I don't think Adams is going to play in the playoffs at all this year. So I'll say Lakers in 6 in that one. This is one I'm really looking forward to. This 4-5. I want to say Kendrick Perkins, this 4-5 between the Clippers and the Suns. Westbrook playing against Durant in the playoffs. By the way, the Suns look great, man. I thought they would look good, but I thought they would run out of gas, and they still may run out of gas. Looking at Chris Paul's 37-year-old age, looking at Kevin Durant's 34, already been hurt this year. Go figure, he slips in the layup line. He was out for a month. But this is, no Paul George on the other side here. It does really favor the Suns, but you got to look at another team that's deep. You still got Kawhi Leonard there. Westbrook, depending on how they use him, and I think Ty Lue, I want to say they've won how many games did they win? It seems like they've won 7 of 8 or 7 of 10. The Clippers, so they're playing a lot better when they first got, air quote, Russell Westbrook, but no Paul George. I think that's probably a 6-game series in favor of the Phoenix Suns. Okay, now this other one, the Kings, no experience. They got the 3 seed lined up. A lot of talent, though. I like Sabonis. Now, Sabonis is older than I thought he was. He's 27. I thought he was like 23, 24. Sabonis, obviously, De'Aaron Fox, playing really good basketball at a very high level. I was listening to somebody talk about this today, or yesterday, it may have been Jason McIntyre, but I want to say Shaq also said something about the Kings is loud state. They're like Portland. When Portland gets good, the fans are unbelievable. And we know how bad the tendency is. Although the Golden State did win recently at Sacramento, I think the Kings are probably going to pull off 2 wins here. But Golden State will probably move on. I mean, they got Wiggins back. They've got Gary Payton Jr. back. But mind you, there are 3 big players here. They're also 35-year-old Steph Curry, 34 and 34, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. The Kings are going to push them. They're going to push them hard. But these guys move on. And I want to say this is setting up for a really good matchup in the second round, Carlos, and that's going to be the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors. I wanted to see it in the first round, but of course, the Golden State gets lucky like they always do. I guess they're just playing well. The harder you work, luckier you get. What my dad used to tell me. Kings have lost 2 or 3. But you know what? It's going to be a good series. It's going to be a good series in the East. So, again, Miami's going to get that 7. We know Boston's locked into the 2. Heat's going to be tough at home, but Boston's playing amazing basketball this year. I know this went to 7 games last year. Don't think that's going to be the case. I feel like Boston's probably going to win this game in 5. And I like your Boston Celtics, Corey, to move on. Okay. Philadelphia. What, man? I thought, Jamie, man, I don't know. He must be a good luck charm, Carlos. My man, Jamie Pax, Philadelphia sports guy. I don't know how in the bleep that this thing worked out for the 76ers, but they've got Brooklyn. Brooklyn without Kevin Durant. Brooklyn without Kyrie Irving, but that may have been addition by subtraction. But Brooklyn's got the 6th seed. Terrible matchup for Brooklyn. Philadelphia swept them in the regular season, and I don't see any reason why this experienced Philadelphia team, led by Joel Embiid, who's got a really good shot to win this MVP. This is the only sweep I'm calling for. I think Philly, they sweep Brooklyn. And they cruise to the second round in 4 games. All righty then. Now, the best series. Best series, Carlos. Best series of the first round. And I've been talking about this series. I know it was with you, Carlos, for a month. Because I could see that there's too many games that are between the Knicks and the Cavs, and there was just enough between the 5 and the 6 and the 4 and the 3 where it's been 4-5 forever, and the Cavs have the home court advantage. I want to say the Cavs, I think they made the play-in game last year, but I'll say this. The Knicks don't have Julius Randle. But I read this today that there is a chance that the Randle with this could be back from this ankle injury as early as game 1. But he's been out since March the 29th. So, I mean, he may be rusty. I mean, we're talking a little over, I don't know, what, 2 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks. The Knicks they are 2-1 against this Cleveland team. Now, Cleveland, no hot take here. They're the more talented team. Top to bottom, Mobley, you name it. You name it, okay? Garland, Mobley, who's the other guy? The guy that they got over from Utah. Now, of course, the Knicks got Brunson. The Knicks do have a little bit more playoff. Not much. Brunson's got playoff experience. Derrick Rose, he's a bench guy. Quickly, remember all those guys 2 years ago, Randall, all those guys 2 years ago, remember, they were in the playoffs 2 years ago. And remember, I think they went to 6 or 7. They lost to Atlanta. They lost to Atlanta. And since then, Atlanta's moved on from their head coach. But so I do think that this will probably go 7. I think this will probably go 7. And I think Cleveland will probably win it. This is going to be this will be my only 7 game. Will be this is just the first round I'm talking about, folks. And we'll go over this again with Carlos, and I'll talk about it. I'm gonna get obviously Jeffrey Deskovitz's idea on Wednesday, what he thinks. He's a New Yorker, but he's a pretty fair guy at his predictions. A very big, very good sports fan, if you want to say. Knows his stuff. Diligent guy. He will be on tomorrow. We'll be talking about this first round. But Cleveland, they seem just to have Jared Johnson or whatever. They just seem to have a better 1 through 5, better bench. They're going to have the home court. Would love to see the Knicks win this game. But we'll see. But we'll see. It's not a lot of hot takes. Now, I'll say this. With Golden State's age, with the Lakers having a player that is LeBron's age and 38 years old, right? And then you've got an injury-prone Anthony Davis. Could Memphis win? Of course. Could the Kings knock out the lowly Kings? They just don't have the experience as a team. But these players have been around for quite a bit. I want to say Fox is in his 4th year out of Kentucky, Darren Fox. Could the injuries pile up on a Phoenix team? Could the injuries foul up on a 37-year-old Chris Paul? Okay. And then you've got obviously a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, who's just now coming back from injury a few games. So this is what's going to be interesting about it, because there's no exact, and that's why I just don't think. Now, right now, I'm leaning really picking Phoenix to get out of the West a little bit better than I thought. I thought it would be good. But I was concerned about the age and the injuries. But there's a possibility. The Lakers can easily get put out by the 2 seed, Memphis, even without Steven Adams and Brandon Clark, okay, because of those injuries. If an Anthony Davis goes down or LeBron gets banged up, they're done. Memphis beats them. Memphis got the experience. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Not pulling for it, but hey, let's just face it. It happens all the time, practically every year in the playoffs. Some years more than others. Remember, Durant went down in the playoffs one year. Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving went down for Cleveland one year, changed everything. Durant went down in the Golden State series. And of course, plus there's a reason why I want to say 1994, 95, I want to say a 6 seed Houston Rockets team, they won it. But remember, that was without Michael Jordan. That was a year that Jordan retired. Okay. That's why I doubt the Warriors are going to win this thing again. Okay. And then the Lakers being a 7 seed, no 7 seeds never won it. You got some people saying they're going to win the whole thing. It's never happened. It's never happened. So I'm really leaning, and I may make my final pick probably Friday with Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez. It's between Milwaukee and Boston to win it. But quite frankly, the way Boston matches up with Milwaukee, even at full strength, you still got to get. But think about Boston, though. They've got a rookie head coach. A lot of things have to do with substitutions that you just never know. For the most part, though, it's not impossible that the air quote interim guy has not won. Remember, the Lakers in 1980 had an interim coach that won the whole thing. They won the whole thing. The Cavs one year, they brought in a coach in December. Remember, they brought Ty Lue in December 2016. They won the whole thing that year. They beat the Golden State Warriors in one of the great finals of all time. Remember, they came back 3-1. Draymond Green gets suspended. The rest is history. So a lot to be looking forward to. Now, tomorrow, going over these playoffs, get a different perspective. Jeffrey Devskovic. I'm going to ask Jeffrey about the Luka Doncic stuff. What does he think? Maybe what does he think? Maybe this Cavs team do. Corey's a big Boston fan. He says not trusting this coach yet. Corey knows how crucial certain substitutions at certain times, calling timeouts, when not the call. Sometimes Phil Jackson would say, I never call a timeout when the other team goes on a run. He says, I'll let them figure it out on their own sometimes. So it's a different season. But now I still like Boston, still leaning heavily Boston because they're in autopilot. The guys know what to do. They played together so long. You keep a Robert Williams healthy, man. That's a big if. That's a big if. They're going to be a tough out. You know, they beat the last game. I want to say they beat Milwaukee by 40 points, man. When they get hot, they get real hot. They can shoot that rock. So we shall see. I'll be back tomorrow with Jeffrey. And then Thursday, I'm going to give you what I would do if I'm the general manager for these top 11 teams. I may throw in a few more. Some of these other teams that have multiple picks on Thursday. And, of course, Friday, Carlos, Mad New Yorker, Chavez. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow on Sports Scopes. Same place, same time.